In March of 1922, 6 members of the Gruber family and their maid, Maria Baumgartner, were savagely murdered in their farmstead located in the tiny German village of Hinterkaifeck. What makes this case so eerie and perplexing is that the killer or killers remain at large and the motive behind the brutal killings remains a mystery to this day. The Gruber family were well known in the village and had lived on their farm for generations. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch of the family, was a quiet and reclusive man who rarely socialized with his neighbors. His daughter, Victoria Gabriel, was a widow with 2 children, and lived with her father and her younger brother, Joseph Gruber. The rest of the family consisted of Joseph's wife, Kazilia, and their 2 children. Their maid, Maria, was a recent addition to the household. The day before the murders, Andreas had told friends and neighbors that he had found footprints in the snow leading from the edge of the forest to the farmstead, but none leading back. He also claimed to have heard strange noises coming from the attic and that the key to the tool shed had gone missing. If you enjoy true crime content, leave a comment and subscribe. On the day of the murders, no one had seen or heard anything out of the ordinary from the Gruber farmstead. But when neighbors noticed that none of the family members had been seen for several days, they became concerned and decided to investigate. What they found was a gruesome sight: the lifeless bodies of the Gruber family and their maid, all slaughtered in their own home. The police investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders was one of the most extensive in German history. However, it was plagued with errors and missteps from the very beginning. The first officer to arrive at the scene, Michael Potzel, failed to secure the crime scene, allowing curious onlookers to trample through the farmstead and destroy potential evidence. The bodies of the victims were also left in place for several days, which made it difficult for investigators to determine the exact time of death. Despite these setbacks, the police carried out an extensive investigation. They interviewed dozens of witnesses, including neighbors and relatives of the Gruber family, and brought in a clairvoyant to help solve the case. However, none of these efforts yielded any concrete leads. One of the most puzzling aspects of the case was the fact that the killer or killers appeared to have stayed in the farmstead for several days after the murders. Investigators found evidence that someone had been living in the house, such as recently eaten food and signs of a fire being lit. However, there was no sign of the killer or killers themselves. In the years following the murders, several suspects were identified, but all were eventually cleared of any involvement. One theory suggested that the killer or killers may have been a traveling salesman who had been seen in the village around the time of the murders. However, this theory was never proven, and the identity of the killer or killers remains a mystery to this day. The Hinterkaifeck murders have had a lasting impact on German society and have become a cultural touchstone for true crime enthusiasts around the world. The case has been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and true crime podcasts, and has inspired amateur sleuths and armchair detectives to try and solve the mystery. One of the reasons why the Hinterkaifeck murders continue to fascinate people is the sheer brutality of the crime. The killer or killers used a mattock, a type of farming tool, to bludgeon their victims to death. The fact that the killer or killers remained in the farmstead for several days after the murders, living among the dead bodies, only adds to the horror of the crime. Another reason why the case has captured the public imagination is the fact that it remains unsolved to this day. Despite decades of investigation, and countless theories and suspects, the identity of the killer or killers remains a mystery. This has led to endless speculation and debate among true crime enthusiasts, who continue to pore over the details of the case in the hopes of finally cracking the mystery. The legacy of the Hinterkaifeck murders extends beyond the world of true crime. The case has become a symbol of the fragility of rural life in Germany in the early 20th century, and the difficulties faced by isolated farming communities. It has also become a cautionary tale about the dangers of reclusiveness and isolation, and the importance of maintaining connections with one's neighbors and community. In recent years, there have been renewed efforts to solve the case. Modern forensic techniques and advanced technology have been used to re-examine the evidence, and new theories and suspects have emerged. While it is unlikely that the case will ever be definitively solved, the legacy of the Hinterkaifeck murders will continue to endure, inspiring future generations to explore the dark and fascinating world of true crime. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more true crime content.